everyone. This is Stefan Boding, and welcome to episode 17 of the Flow University YouTube channel, where we will be talking about mental fitness today. In the beginning parts of this channel, I have begun to recontextualize the viewer's view of fitness from one being just predicated on the physical aspects of the body and the external environment to one where you can begin to use fitness as a tool to develop yourself in every single plane of existence. Not just the physical plane, but the emotional, spiritual, and the mental plane as well. In this week's episode, we'll be diving into the mental plane of existence. Yes, mind. And we will be discussing how you can improve mind in order to improve its abilities, capabilities, and its capacity. This is extremely important as your mind is also linked to your will. And if you do not have the necessary prowess or the capacity to display and express such a thing, then the wills of others or other things will begin to restrict, limit, and oppress you. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the Flow University YouTube channel, Mental Fitness. Let's get started. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water put into a cup. Becomes the cup. Put water into a teapot. Becomes the teapot. Water can flow or creep or drip or crash. Be water, my friend. Bruce Lee. As we go into key number one to start this week's episode of the Flow University YouTube channel, Beginner's Mind. When you first came into the world, you did not have any contextualization, relation, or really any way to navigate or begin to move in a proper understanding in the external environment, and your internal world was completely dark. All is mind, or an aspect of all is mind. And mind begins as clay. It begins as a dark, formless entity. But the light, your conscious awareness, can pierce through the darkness, and you begin to mold the darkness into ideas, thoughts, concepts, beliefs, ideals, values, and perspectives, and previous, present, and future, either visions, experience, or dreams. Whenever you want to learn a new skill, the skill or the movement or the mechanism that you're trying to engage with, your mind does not know how to properly utilize this thing. So there is a discrepancy in your efficiency, and the technicality is limited for you in the beginning. But over time, as you gain more competency, your skill level will improve. The benefit of having a beginner's mind is that you do not allow your past perceptions, viewpoints, and thought patterns to influence how you engage with a new mechanism. And this is very hard the older you get. As you become set in your ways, you literally become hardened into a specific state. A lot of individuals, they become like rocks. They become solid and unmoving and unchanging. And while this is good in a sense of giving you a key way of navigating throughout life, it is limiting in the sense that you're never able to take on new perspectives, new viewpoints, and that scope of perspective doesn't broaden. It stays narrow in a tiny box or sphere. And so instead of you becoming limitless, you stay limited. And so by having a beginner's mind, it unlocks the doors that you have closed around your consciousness. And this will allow your consciousness to perhaps expand. And so, what is your mental fitness? And so this can be used to assess not just your cognitive function and abilities, but also it can be used to assess how does your mind operate within certain fashions. Obviously, there are different types of intelligences. So are you purely IQ, EQ, KQ? Which one are you more efficient at? And in what ways or in what ways or manners are you limited? And is this limitation due to you blocking off the different perspectives, or is it due to just a simple unawareness? If it is due to a simple unawareness, then by stepping forth, yes, there is a learning curve in the beginning. You will not be as proficient, but over time, you will gain proficiency. Now, if you are the one who is closing the doors to the conscious awareness, then you must unlock those doors. And there is no one that can do that but yourself. You can talk to people, you can watch videos, you can do a whole bunch of things, but unless you open the doors and allow the broadening of perspective, then nothing will change. And experience can help with this. Experience can almost be a shock to the system. And a lot of individuals within modern society, they do not venture off into realms, industries, or environments that they do not feel comfortable with. Because when you're in unfamiliarity, what will happen is that you begin to be fearful because there isn't a common understanding. You do not know how to function. You do not know how to relate. And the detrimental effect of this is that you are never willing to step forth. And so fear can be a helpful identicator of potential threats or situations that might be dreadful to us as human beings. But if fear is the one that sits at the top of your value system, and it is the one that is directing your life, then it will limit and restrict you. And if fear is what's guiding you, then it will lead you into a dark room where you will close all the doors and you will essentially hide within that room. And if you look out at how people move within modern society, this is how they operate. They do not go and speak to people that don't have the same thoughts, ideas, and viewpoints. They do not interact with certain communities, and they talk about other people in different ways, almost to paint them as non-human. And this is what makes hate easier to direct outward towards others, because you cut off the relation of potentially viewing them as similar, and because you view them as unsimilar and you place them in your mind as an identification, it is easier for you to stem out a opposition, a disgust, and a hateful attitude. Now, in sticking with beginner's mind, a lot of times the most growth you will see is from either the individuals or the environments that you dread the most. And if you are willing, because a lot of times it is in the environments that you run from the most is where the more limiting aspects of your competency level lie. And so if you are willing to step within those environments, then even if it is, let's say, for example, you had a skill that you were the worst at, but you go into an environment where you can increase that skill. So for an example, let's say squatting. Let's say, and I know that squatting's in the physical plane of existence, but we'll use it as a helpful example. You suck at squatting. Squatting's the worst movement you're at. You're great at bench pressing. You're great at pull-ups. You're great at everything else except squatting. But now you work on the weakest link. And over time, the weakest link gets better. So what do you think that does to your baseline overall skill level? Even if you go back to some of the things that you're good at, because you've increased the baseline, the worst, now you've risen to a whole nother level because you always are willing to work on and improve the things that you're good at. So in mental fitness, what will this look like? Let's say you're bad at time management. Well, in increasing that skill by going into environments that force you to be very conscious and aware of your time, you will get better at it. Let's say you're terrible at public speaking. Well, increasing that will increase that baseline level. Let's say that you're bad at articulating your thoughts. Let's say you're bad at creating mental models or digesting or interacting with mental models. Let's say you're bad at critical thinking. Let's say you're bad at everyday human interaction and conversation. By engaging in these things, you elevate, even if it's by 1%, the chances of you being better at it. And so what beginner's mind does for you is it's not so much that you go into environments as if you know everything, but you know nothing. So you're willing to be the least in order to improve yourself. If you do not have the willingness to be the least, you will never be the greatest. And so in taking 5 steps back, sometimes you'll go 10 steps further. And we'll use chess as an example. I made a video, it was a long time ago, expressing how you want to play chess with life. And a lot of individuals, they play life by continually just to take steps forward, steps forward, steps forward. It's this, it's this, it's this. You go to high school, you go to college, then you get a job, then you climb up the corporate ladder. And a lot of times this leads individuals to getting stuck. Because if everyone's doing the same thing, then there's going to be a lot of people at the same level, at the same time, with the same skill set. And so there's no way for you to I apologize, guys. There's no way to set yourself apart from others. And so if you work on the weaknesses, when you get to that level, you have things that other people do not have. In the mental world, in mind, there are infinite possibilities. And these infinite possibilities, if ventured into, not to its conclusion, but if ventured into just a little bit, will open up opportunities for you in the external world. For example, public speaking. For example, being able to lead high-performing teams. For example, time management. For example, sales, marketing. For example, understanding thinking mental models. For example, improving your creativity. For example, being able to venture and understand business at a high level. For example, being able to digest and re-articulate high academic data, knowledge, and information. This is what will aid in your overall growth and development as a human. In fitness, if you view it like that, then you can begin to train yourself and teach yourself. Just like when you go into the gym, you're improving your body. And when you leave the gym, your body is recovering, and then you give your body its adequate nutrients, and you are in a community that supports and cares for you. In the same way, this can work in the mental sphere. I created an episode where I said that fitness is a 10-dimensional tool mechanism that we humans can use to work on, to grow, improve, and develop ourselves endlessly in both ability, capability, and capacity within the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual realms. And so in the mental realm, you can do mental training. In the mental realm, there is mental recovery, sleep, mindfulness, meditation. There are communities, people that think like you, or people who elevate your thought patterns. There is mental nutrition. What are you putting within your mind? What do you listen to? What do you read? What do you interact with on the daily basis? This is food, not just for the body, but for mind. And so always step forward in this. Key number 2, openness. A lot of individuals, they gain 1% of knowledge, and they believe that they hold within them all of understanding. Every single peak is a new valley. It is impossible for any human to hold within them all knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The issue with most humans within modern society is that they believe that existence revolves around humans, even though we as humans have proved in the past that there are not only multiple planets, but galaxies and universes. But the conscious awareness of most humans stay limited within their life. Now, your life can play out as a movie, and you can be the star within that movie, but also understand that there are other stars as well. You are not the only one that exists. And in seeing this, in opening your eyes, you see that there are other characters operating in the same manner with the same wishes and desires as you. And so it's taking the focal conscious point out of yourself, reverting it, shifting it over, and beginning to actually live life from a first-person perspective. Most people don't live life from a first-person perspective. They view life from a third-person perspective where the camera is focused on them. But if you shift the camera from focusing on you to focusing on others, then you will begin to have an inclination of curiosity about these people. Most humans are incredibly interesting. Most people, they only really scratch the surface of an individual. Because we in the modern sphere, we give such simplistic identifications to people, most people, they'll see a person, believe, or have a quick conversation with a person, believe that's what that person is like. But that doesn't speak to who and what they are as a human. Because underneath the surface, underneath the hood, the makings and the functionality of that person could be so dynamic that it would take years of complex conversation to even scratch the surface of what that individual being is going through. Think about it. Most humans do not understand their own place within this existence. And so if you don't know your place in this existence, then there are numerous others that do not know their place in this existence. And so if you just have a conversation with those people, there is an infinitude of things that you can learn about this existence from them. Every single person is unique with their own inherent gifts, qualities, and talents. Every single person has the opportunity to step forward and begin to navigate within this world within their set desire or manner. But too many people, they submit to the notion that they have no power, sovereignty, or authority. And so they give those up to foreign entities. Do not allow this to be you, but also do not gain ahead of elitism and superiority to the fact that you forget that you are human and that other people know things that you do not know. You might know a couple of things, but you do not know the unknown unknowns. And if someone can make the unknowns known to you, it might actually help you in not only understanding, developing, and improving yourself, but it can help you in helping not just others, it can help you in even attaining your desires. Unfortunately, a lot of humans on this planet are selfish. And so there's nothing wrong with having a selfish desire, but too many humans go about attaining the selfish desire at the detriment of others. Yes, you can have your cake and eat it too, but do not smash the cakes of others just so that you can get one. Open your eyes, remove the veil, and open the door so that you can allow the consciousnesses, the voices of others to reach you, and not just human beings. As we humans mistakenly believe that we are the center, and that let's do a quick thought experiment. If humanity and human beings cease to exist, let's say we as humans decide to blow ourselves to smithereens by using the atomic bombs, does the universe still not exist? We humans have grown so arrogant and prideful in our natures that we actually believe that we create the world, that we create these things. That is incredibly naive. What existed before humans? What existed before humans had the conscious awareness to think? There was still existence. We were just non-being. So allow you to realize the truth within this and understand that the whole of existence does not surround human beings. The whole of existence surrounds the whole of existence. And we do not have to be within the whole of existence. We can be removed from it, like deleting a code in a program. So don't allow yourself to only allow one stream of consciousness to reach you. What are the plants saying? What are the animals saying? Yes, animals are living, conscious beings. What is the ocean saying? This is how some individuals even experience God. This is how some individuals block off the voice of God. And this goes even deeper because we're focusing on the mental realm, but some individuals, they block off the emotions. This is how most individuals become psychopaths. This is how most individuals become sociopaths. This is how some individuals become Machiavellian. So don't begin to block off. This is how some individuals become heartless and cold because they create this sense of me and they forget we. So being open will aid you in improving your mental fitness because you will be able to learn things from the experience of others and all that you previously would not have had access to because of your past previous viewpoint, operation, and function throughout the world. Moving to key number 3, peaks and valleys. So I said previously that every single peak is a new valley. You can always grow. You can always progress. You can always improve yourself. Every end is a new beginning. And every beginning cannot re-emerge without a rebirth. So for you, a lot of times, just when you begin a new journey, that's when you're at the valley of it. And so when you gain the full scope of competency, there'll be a new valley because there's still more for you to learn. So we'll use the educational system to paint this example. When you begin in preschool, you were in a valley, but then you reached the peak at the end of preschool, and then you moved on to the next grade. When you get to kindergarten, you start at a new valley, and then you gain competency, and then you move on to first grade. And this continues till you either graduate high school and move on to everyday life, or you go onward to college and undergrad and postgrad and maybe even doctorate and PhD. But this continues. It never ends. See, the majority of humans believe that education ends when they leave the public system. But the educational system is just a construct that humans created to teach the masses in order for them to have competency in aiding the evolution, progression, and sustainability of the species, the collective, over time. And as society advances, we need human beings on average to advance with it. This was the main reason for the educational system. But education within itself is a tool to gain not just mental prowess and ability, but it aids us in not just gathering knowledge, but interpreting it. So, and it teaches us how to utilize that knowledge within not just the internal, but the external, so that we can create and systematize things. So education never has to end. So people in the past, before the public educational system was created, a lot of individuals used to have to either have tutors, have private teachers, or they would teach themselves. And so you have the opportunity to teach yourself endlessly. This is what mental fitness is. And so instead of ending your educational journey, you can improve it, or you can continue it onward forever. There's numerous stories. Abraham Lincoln taught himself. There's numerous stories throughout history where individuals didn't necessarily take the straight public educational route and still came out on the other side brighter and better than those that went in the public educational system. So education is a tool, just like fitness is a tool. And so you can use education in relation and in tow with fitness in order to improve your mental capabilities and abilities and capacity. And this is very important for us humans within the modern sphere, because as society advances, we elevate to higher and higher realms. And so, for example, most humans in the past probably could have made a decent living being labor workers, meaning that they use their bodies and work in order to gather resources. But as society has advanced, we have moved away from the physical realm in order to gather resources and to make money, to more mental prowess and abilities. So modern society values one's mental capabilities. And so in the future, it will probably advance to, and it's already on the teetering edge of the emotional plane and the spiritual plane, where humans will value this in order to create and systematize things. But at any top level of any industry or financial accumulation, there is a spiritual nature to it. And so by elevating your mental fitness, it will allow you to see and how you can tap into the other realms. Because the third eye is nothing but mind piercing out and relating to the external environment. And you're not using your eyes so much to interpret, you're using mind to interpret. So by viewing the peaks and the valleys as what they are, you always understand that you can always climb and grow and go higher and higher. And this might scare a lot of individuals. A lot of individuals might believe that they'll never make it. But I promise you guys, if you begin a journey right now in improving yourself in your mental capabilities, and you just do just a year every day, and you improve by 1%, 1% a week, in a year, you just grew by 52%. In 10 years, you just grew by 520%. And most humans aren't doing this work. Most humans, after high school or after college, they stop improving themselves. So if you, no matter where you start, if you improve yourself by 520%, where most humans stop, where will you be in tangent with them? And if you have been working on your weaknesses and turn them into strengths, and you continue that inversion, then where will you be at? You will be on you'll be at a phenomenal level. Guys, I am not, or I was not and I am still not the most articulate person on the planet. I would say my worst skill is communication. I previously had a very tough time articulating my internal thoughts, opinions, viewpoints, and perspective. But this being a weakness of mine, I decided that I wanted to improve this. So I started reading the dictionary. I downloaded an app that helps with communication skills. I began to speak out loud on a daily basis in order to help me to formulate thoughts, opinions, and arguments. And so I've seen a drastic improvement. You can actually go back to some of my early videos and you can see how I was articulating myself. You could see how I was operating in relation to a camera and being able to have sustainable thoughts and streams of consciousness. And you can see that development. This does not have to be just me going through this. You can go on the journey as well. And it doesn't have to be communication. It can be anything you want. Now, this channel is predicated on fitness, but if you've watched me now long enough, you're beginning to understand what fitness actually is. We're not sitting here doing a bunch of mindless workouts. At this point, you can go on Instagram, you can go on X, you can go on Facebook, and you can go on YouTube and you can type in a workout. So most humans, they don't need workouts. They need understanding. And if you have understanding, then when you engage with something, you're engaging it from a different level, in a different perspective, from which it can actually be of aid and of use to you. Because that is the whole point of even physical fitness. We're just working on ourselves. And so fitness doesn't have to be this tightly narrowed box that society has deemed it as and given it to you. Society cares about gathering resources. And so when something is presented to you in a box, is probably doing so in order to limit its scope and range, in order so that you can understand it within your narrow perspective. And so that it's easier for you to engage with it, but also to extract things from you. But on the flip side, the value of it is tremendously more useful if the broadening of it, the full scope of it, is understood. So moving on to key number 4, holding opposing viewpoints. This is probably and will be one of the most important skills that you can have throughout life. You want to, let's say you have 2 apples. You have a red apple and you have a green apple. Let's say you were born with the green apple and you know everything there is to know about this green apple. and you think this green apple is the best apple in the world. But then out of nowhere, this red apple is thrown at you and it's in your hand. And now someone says, this is the best apple in the world. Well, what is it to do? Is the green apple the best apple in the world coming from your perspective and your life experiences, or is the red apple? And you try the red apple, you take a bite of it, but you don't really know if it's the best apple because it might be a bad apple. It might just be different for you. You might have just a particular taste for the green apple. And so you have these two apples in your hands and you're leaning back and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, how do I begin to even navigate this question or navigate the potential answer to this? And so a lot of times this will happen for individuals. They'll have one set of information presented to them. They'll have another set of information presented to them, and their bias towards the other set is predicated on their unique life situation and circumstances and their viewpoints and off of the knowledge and information and data that they have gathered. But there's another set of things given to them, but it's predicated off of someone's own unique experience and operation throughout this life. And so you have these two things, but which one is the best for you? And so having the ability to hold two opposing viewpoints, what it will do is it will give you the ability to remain objective. And the ability of remaining objective is very important, especially when you're dealing with things that hold a tremendous weight and have absolute consequences to them, namely health and your wellness. If there is something that you are doing that is going to lead to a negative effect, you want to know that. But you can't know that if you're either limited to only your scope or if you immediately buy into someone else's scope. So by being able and having the mental ability to hold two opposing things and you leaning back and staying objective, you'll be able to have discernment. You'll be able to see, okay, is this because I'm being biased and I'm assuming, or I'm being a little bit too hard-nosed in my viewpoints and thought pattern, or is this actually good? And in this, am I immediately succumbing to their authority or their knowledge base in the subject, or is this actually good for me? And so this will help you when you, not just in fitness and health and wellness, and if you are viewing some of the information that is in social media, but this will even help you in other things. This will help you in finances. This will help you in education. This will help you in skill development and improvement. This will help you, like, which skill is going to help me advance my career? What actually is, this will help you to create priorities. What is a priority for me right now? So this will really aid you in being able to place a hierarchy of things that you deem as valuable. And so that will really aid you in that aspect. And it'll also aid your mental fitness. Key number 5, last key, discovery versus hardness. Guys, life is a continual adventure of discovery. You are always learning more and more and more and more as you are becoming more and more and more and more. But if you stay hard and too hard, you will not allow the flow of experience to move through you. And you see this with a lot of older humans. A lot of older humans, they become hardened and rigid within their certain viewpoints of the world. And it's very hard to open them to new perspectives and viewpoints. And this is because they've either confirm this in a biased manner, or they have simply accepted that this is the way things are. And so if you begin to have more of a operation of discovery, then this will limit the hardness from happening, not just within your heart, but also more importantly within your mind. This is your mind center. So if you become too hardened, then what'll happen is you'll immediately shut all the doors, and there's nothing no one can do about it. And you see this a lot of times in industries, and we'll stick with the fitness industry. And like, there's certain people that prescribe to certain things. So you'll see people who are the vegans, they're hardened and they've determined that this is the way things are. You'll see the keto people, they've become hardened and this is the way things are for them. You'll see any person that prescribes to a certain way of movement, a certain way of exercise, a certain way of being. And this is what they use, and they've formed, and they've not just created an identity, they have identified with the identity. And this identity is who they are. They've determined that this is me. And the problem with this is that isn't what you are. That's what you do. That's how you act. That's what you prescribe to, but that's not who you are. And so a lot of times people want a clear identity because the identity helps their ego in either morphing around and protecting the self, or it aids them in giving the self meaning and purpose. And so the issue with this is that when someone becomes hardened, it becomes easier for them to quickly identify others, but also they either want others to prescribe to their same worldview, or they will cut themselves off from others that don't think like them. So when you switch it to discovery, then you can hold a certain worldview, viewpoint, thoughts, opinions, beliefs, ideals, values, but you're still able to relate and interact with others. Because what others are doing for you is others are teaching you what you might not know about self. So when you interact with others, they might tell you something about self, and now self is able to sit, digest, and now begin to shift a previously thought viewpoint to something that matches with the new information. And so it's not staying stuck like a rock. It's being like water that can flow, that is formless and can shift from being the cup to the teapot, but it isn't necessarily stuck in that state. Guys, water can shift from a liquid to a gas to a solid. Most of the human body is water. It's liquid. It's not water, it's liquid, fluid. I apologize. So this thing can shift, shape, and mold. So you can shift, shape, and mold. So don't become hardened and stuck. This will really limit you, and it will cut you off and hinder you from growth. Neuroplasticity exists. You can always develop and improve yourself, not just physically, but mentally as well. There's numerous podcasts. You can Google neuroplasticity. You can Google mental fit. Like, you can Google this and see how impactful this is. There's too many people that believe that there's certain things they cannot do because they are a certain age. And I'll preface this. Most humans take age far too seriously. Age is just a number. of our biological, not even of our biological clock. There's been scientific studies, and there's books that have been written. The name of the scientists will come to me briefly, but of just because you've been existing in the physical plane for a set amount of time doesn't even speak to your biological clock. So you might have the representation of being 30, but your biological clock might be 20. And there's ways to reverse your biological clock. There's certain individuals that are 20, but they have 30, 40-year-old bodies. So it's contextualizing and shifting your view of body, mind, and soul. There's too many humans where they view life in a linear fashion instead of life being a sphere of experience. And it can be like this for you. You're not like fate just goes here, like you're fated to this. And there's nothing you can do about it. Accept it and be done. But destiny are the wings that lift you up, and now you can actually have experience. And so developing and working and improving on your mental fitness will aid you in building the will and the capacity to step into destiny. I hope you all have enjoyed this week's episode of the Flow University YouTube channel. Guys, please work on your mental fitness. This is extremely important. This is probably more important than even physical fitness. You can always work on your physical fitness in any way, shape, form, or passion. The entire earth is your gym. You don't have to go to a typical box gym or anywhere. You can do fitness anywhere. But same thing in the mental world. You can work on this. And as the species advances, you want this to be at max capacity or as close to it as you can get it. And I will say this, I'm going to create an entire episode on meditation. And a lot of humans don't really understand what meditation is. Guys, you can do your entire life can be an active meditation. And I'll save the rest for an entire episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's episode of the Flow University YouTube channel. You all enjoy the rest of your day. And like always, stay blessed.